What a pleasure it is today to share with you the beauty of the art of Greg Postle. It's an absolute honour to also announce that I've recently been appointed as Greg's exclusive agent in the eastern states of Australia, and I'm delighted to now be offering works of Greg Postle's from my studio at Budgem on the Sunshine Coast. Another special announcement I'd like to make today is that Greg Postle has recently been accepted as a finalist into the Holmes Prize for Excellence in Realistic Australian Bird Art. And that wonderful exhibition has had a really strong contingent of 35 finalists in the show, and it will be showing up at the Mary Cancross Scenic Reserve in their Interpretive Centre from the 11th of September until the 13th of October. And this amazing piece, Broken, is the work that Greg has submitted for that prize. And also I'm delighted to say that another one of the artists that I represent in my studio, Catherine Carpenter, has also been selected as a finalist in the prize with this fabulous watercolour and gouache called The Homemaker. I will come and do a separate video on that shortly, so keep watching for some more information about that. But for now, I'd like to focus on Greg Postle's beautiful painting, Broken. I'd now like to share with you some of the amazing information about this beautiful painting, Broken, by Greg Postle, which is his finalist entry for the Holmes Bird Art Prize. It's an interesting painting because it's a collection of a lot of things that are important to Greg. One of the interesting things that's happened with Greg in the last 5 years is that he's moved to the Kimberley in northwest Australia. And it's an amazing area with a really rugged landscape and a really challenging environment with the weather. But being up there and being exposed to a landscape that is just full of bird life has been an awesome experience for Greg. And for a painter that likes to depict nature, he describes the experience as having been mind-blowing. So it's really inspiring, his beautiful artwork, and it's lovely now to see him back painting again and producing gorgeous work. Now, Broken is a really interesting painting because it's the choice of the bird as a subject that people find quite unusual. He's actually an ibis, or a straw-necked ibis. And most people regard ibises as scavengers or bin birds. But for Greg, who acutely observes all the birds he paints, he goes out into the field and he will spend many, many hours watching birds and taking photographs. And in fact, he's got thousands and thousands of photographs of birds, all various species, all doing different things. And he refers to those imagery, to that imagery whenever he's creating his paintings. And what he's noticed about the ibis is that they're actually really wise birds, and they're very, very clever opportunists. So there's an aura of wisdom surrounding this particular bird. And they're actually also very communal in their behaviour. They hang out in big family groups, they feed in groups, and they also fly in big groups. So that's just something that he really admires about the ibis, and why he's chosen to paint that to replicate this wisdom. He's also injecting into the painting the influence of the environment that he's been living in and the particular challenges that come with that environment. And one of the really lovely things that's been included in this painting that's not immediately obvious, you have to go and find it, is that the eye of the bird is reflecting the fires that rampage through the northwest of the Kimberley. It's a lovely surreal element, but also it's a nod to the realism of living in that particular environment. So the painting really, in Greg's eyes, is about beauty, but also the beast, because fire ravages the environment, but it also brings life. And we can see that he's depicted the bird in a rugged environment. You know, we've got the parched soil and the sandy rocks in amongst the bird. And also this incredibly emotional element in the painting, which is the skull from another ibis. So we can interpret from that, if we like, that that is his mate, which has died. So one thing that I love about Greg's work, and that lifts him, in my opinion, beyond being a very skilled painter of realism, is that he has this power to inject emotion into all of his paintings. And it lifts him up into another realm of being a master bird painter, because he thinks very deeply about all of his compositions before he begins. We can be seduced, and obviously we can admire the beautiful realism that he's able to replicate in his paintings. But a painting has to have a little bit more than that if we're actually going to linger and enjoy it and think about what is really going on in the composition. And that's one of the beautiful qualities that's evident in many of Greg Postle's work. So in addition to the beautiful meaning and pathos that's in many of Greg's paintings, obviously his technique is the thing that really stands out to most people when they first look at one of his paintings. And that's been achieved from many years of experience and experimentation. And if we look closely here at the painting, we can see that there's just so many beautiful individual brushstrokes that have been applied to create the depth and the colour and the texture and the detail in the painting. And Greg achieves this by using very fine brushes, and he's very patient and he's a perfectionist, and that comes through in his beautiful, beautiful paintings. And his use of light is really lovely as well. It's sort of shadowy, and the background of the painting is almost like a dark Renaissance picture, which is beautiful because it creates impact and light, like a focus or a spotlight on the thing that matters to him, which is the bird. Now his backgrounds as well, whilst they look very simple, it's actually very, very skillful how he creates that. It's all hand done, and it's all carefully blended by using a series of layers of oil, which is applied with a big brush, also rags, sometimes with his fingers to blend it. And it's just built up layer by layer by layer, and then careful layers of very light varnish applied to the top, which is pretty difficult when you're working in the Kimberley with the environment up there. Often he has to work under a really fine gauze of material to stop the flies and the dust and everything getting into his paintings. So, you know, it's just amazing how meticulous he is with his paintings to create this beautiful, beautiful effect. As many of you would already be aware, Greg is actually one of Australia's most prestigious and highly regarded bird painters. He began his career in 1985, that's when he began painting full time, and pretty much from that moment on he's enjoyed really successful solo exhibitions in Australia in various places, and also he's internationally recognised as a bird painter, so much so that for 5 consecutive years his work was selected to appear in a really prestigious bird prize, which is called the Bird in Art exhibition, which is held at the Lee Yorkie Woodson Museum of Fine Art in the USA. Now, you have to be invited to submit work into that exhibition, and it just shows you the level of his prestige, not only with local collectors, but also internationally. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the beautiful works of Greg Postle's that are actually available in my art studio at the moment. He's recently produced a beautiful pair, a male and female bird. And this is the female version, and it's a purple-crowned fairy wren, which is a lovely bird that you see very rarely. They're quite endangered. They live in the northern part of Australia. And Greg had been living there for a number of years before he actually noticed one and was then able to photograph them and then come back to the studio and paint one. So this is the female purple-crowned fairy wren. And if we come over here, we can see here's the beautiful male with his beautiful plumage and, of course, the purple crown on his head, which is what gives him his name. And like all of Greg's work, absolutely beautiful detail. And in this particular work, you can see all the gorgeous little tufts that he's created here in the painting by using his really amazing fine brushstrokes. And then of interest as well is this really gorgeous work. It's an earlier work of Greg's, but I think you'll see that his beautiful technique is still prevalent even in his earlier works. And his observation of the character of the birds comes out in this too, because it's called the bug hunt, which I think is lovely. And here we have the little bird here looking for the bug inside the twig. And so now in closing, I just wanted to give you some more details about the Bird Art Prize up at Malani, the Holmes Bird Art Prize. If you want to come and see Broken at the exhibition, and also the lovely painting by Catherine Carpenter, the homemaker, the exhibition is running from the 11th of September until the 13th of October at the Mary Cancross Discovery Centre. And the gala opening for that and the actual official prize announcement will be on Saturday the 14th of September from 2:30 p.m. I will be attending to support Kathy and Greg at the exhibition, and if any of you would like to come along, please put in your booking and RSVP to the Friends of the Caloundra Regional Gallery very soon. Bookings are essential, and I'll be delighted to speak to anybody at that opening about the works of Kathy or Greg, two fabulous artists that I'm really excited to be representing here in Queensland. Thanks for listening.